My name is Rohail Khan. I'm 31 now, but I was only 22 when this happened. I still have nightmares about that night, and I've never taken a train alone again since then. At the time, I was living in Lahore, Pakistan, working as a junior clerk at a government office. I'd taken a few days off to visit my uncle in Rawalpindi. We had a small family event to attend, and I was supposed to return to Lahore the same night. I booked a ticket for the 10 p.m. train from Rawalpindi railway station. It was a late train but cheap, and I figured I could just sleep through the night and reach Lahore by early morning. I wish I had never gotten on that train. The night started off fine. The station was mostly empty. A few vendors were closing up their stalls. The overhead fans made that lazy humming noise, and I could hear the distant barking of stray dogs somewhere beyond the tracks. I checked the digital board. It said the train would arrive on platform 6. I found a bench and sat down with my backpack. A railway guard passed by. I asked him just to confirm. "Platform 6, I said. He paused, looked at me strangely, then nodded slowly. "Han, but be careful," he muttered. I asked what he meant. "Platform 6 is old. Don't wander too far down." Before I could ask more, he walked away, his flashlight bouncing off the platform tiles. That's when I noticed something strange. There were no other passengers waiting. It was just me. I looked around again. The other platforms had some people sitting, chatting, or just sleeping on their bags. But platform 6, completely empty and silent. The clock above the platform ticked slowly to 10 p.m. No train. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then I heard the whistle. A low, old-fashioned sound, like something from a different time. Not the sharp electric horn of the modern trains I was used to. This one was deep and long, echoing through the station like a ghost. I stood up, nervous now. The train rolled in slowly, black and red, the paint chipped, the windows fogged up with age. The engine looked old, too. Not rusted, but not new either. There was a strange smell in the air, like metal and wet earth. The doors opened with a creak. Still no other passengers. I hesitated. Something in my stomach told me not to get on, but I was tired. I didn't want to miss work the next day, and trains were usually late. Maybe everyone else had taken the earlier one. I climbed on board, and the moment my foot touched the floor inside that train, everything changed. The lights inside were dim, yellow, flickering. The walls were lined with dark wooden panels. The seats were torn, old-fashioned, with faded red cushions. The entire coach smelled wrong. Not like people or food or luggage. It smelled like soil, cold soil, kind you find under old graves. Still, I walked down the aisle. The entire coach was empty. Not a single soul. Not even a ticket collector. No vendors. No families. No noise. Just the ticking of the old fan above and the rhythmic clunk-clunk of the train wheels as it began to move. I sat down near the window. But what I saw outside wasn't normal. Instead of the Rawalpindi station disappearing behind us, all I saw was darkness. No lights, no buildings, no platforms. Just black trees moving slowly past the window, as if we were traveling through some unknown jungle. That's when I realized this wasn't the route to Lahore. I stood up, walked down the coach. Nothing. I opened the door to the next compartment. Same. Another empty coach. I checked the signs above the seats. All were labeled in an old-style Urdu script, the kind my grandfather used to write in. It was almost unreadable. I went further ahead to look for the engine room. Maybe I could talk to the driver? The coaches kept repeating, one after another. Same torn seats, same lights, same smell. Over and over. It was like I was going in circles. Then I heard it. A whisper. Soft. Slow. Right behind me. I turned around. No one. But the whisper came again. This time, right by my ear. "You shouldn't have come on this train." I jumped back, heart pounding. And then the lights flickered, and for a split second, I saw something standing at the far end of the coach. A tall figure, pale skin, no face, just darkness where its eyes and mouth should have been. I blinked. It was gone. I ran, back through the coaches, past the same torn red seats, the same flickering fans, the same smell of old earth. I don't know how long I ran. Minutes. Hours. Time didn't make sense anymore. Finally, I collapsed into a seat, gasping, and that's when I realized something even more terrifying. The view outside the window had stopped. The trees were gone. The train wasn't moving anymore, but the sound of wheels, the clunk-clunk, was still playing, like a recording. Fake. I stood again and opened the coach door, looking down. There was no ground below, just fog, white, endless fog swirling beneath the train. We weren't on tracks. We were floating. And then, the train jerked violently. The lights all went off at once. Total darkness. Silence. Then, footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming from behind me. Getting closer. And closer. And then, "Ticket, please." I turned. It was a man standing there. A ticket collector. But not any normal one. His uniform was torn and stained. His hat was tilted to one side. His skin was gray. His eyes completely white, like they were blind. He held out his hand. "Ticket. Now," he growled. I fumbled, reaching into my pocket, pulled out the crumpled ticket I had bought earlier. He snatched it, looked at it, then tore it in half. Wrong train. And then he smiled. All his teeth were black. I tried to run. I opened the next door and leapt into the next coach. And that's when I saw them. People. Dozens of them. Sitting still, frozen, heads down. Every one of them had rotted faces, covered in dirt and ash. Their skin was falling off. Some were missing fingers, eyes. I screamed. One of them looked up at me. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, her voice echoing. I turned and ran again. Door after door, coach after coach. Until finally, I opened one more door and stepped out into open air. I was falling, down through the fog, into nothing. I don't remember hitting the ground. When I woke up, I was back on platform 6, lying on the floor. A railway guard was shaking me. "You okay?" he asked. I sat up slowly. My head was pounding. My clothes were damp with sweat. What happened?" I asked. The guard looked confused. "You fainted," he said. "No trains passed in the last hour. What are you doing here?" I looked at the clock. It was 12:07 a.m. I had been gone for nearly an hour, but there was no train, no whistle, no passengers, nothing, just silence. I left the station that night and took a bus home the next morning. When I told my uncle, he said something that still chills me. "Platform 6, that place is cursed. People used to disappear from there in the 70s. Old workers say the last train from that platform never stops at any station. It just takes you. Takes you where? No one knows. And ever since that night, I've avoided railway stations altogether, because sometimes, even now, I hear that whistle in my dreams. And every time I do, I wake up just before 11:10 p.m. I used to work the night shift as a janitor at a small but very old railway station in a remote town in India. I won't name the place, not because I'm scared, but because after what I saw, I don't want anyone else to ever gather again. The station was old, built during British rule and hadn't been renovated much since then. The tiles were cracked, the walls faded, and the wooden benches creaked like old bones. Trains rarely stopped there at night. Only 2 passed through after midnight, and both barely halted for a minute. My shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m. I worked alone. The station had 4 platforms, but platforms 3 and 4 were rarely used anymore. Only platforms 1 and 2 were lit and maintained. Platforms 3 and 4 had broken lights, rusted rails, and rotting benches with weeds growing through them. No passengers ever went there, and even I wasn't required to clean that side. But I was curious, and that curiosity became my curse. It started one night around 1:30 a.m. I was sweeping near the edge of Platform 1, where the wind carried dust and leaves from the surrounding trees. Suddenly, I heard something strange. A voice, whispering. At first, I thought it was wind rustling through the tunnel nearby, but then it became clearer. It sounded like someone saying, "Hello, is anyone there? Please help me." I froze. The voice was coming from somewhere below. At first, I thought it was a prank, or maybe a homeless person stuck under the platform somehow. I crouched and tried to look beneath the concrete platform edge. Nothing but shadows. But then, I heard it again. "Help! I'm stuck!" Now the voice sounded like it was coming from under Platform 3. I decided to check. It was against protocol, and I should have called the station master, but my curiosity got the better of me. I walked toward Platform 3 with only my flashlight. The regular lights were all broken. It was pitch dark. My footsteps echoed unnaturally loud, and the wind felt heavier, as if pushing me away. The moment I stepped onto Platform 3, the temperature dropped. I'm not exaggerating. It was like walking into a freezer. My flashlight flickered, but I continued. "Hello?" I called out. "If someone's here, say something." Silence. Then a whisper, right next to my ear. "Down here." I spun around. No one. But now I could clearly hear movement below me. Like nails scratching stone. A faint metallic rattling, and then the voice again. Desperate, crying. "Please, help me." I got down on my knees and shined the light beneath the edge. There, below the platform, maybe 5 feet into a crawl space, I saw a face. Pale, dirty, eyes wide open, shining in my light. The person looked like a young man, maybe in his early 20s. He was covered in dust and blood. "How did you get down there?" I asked. He didn't answer that. "Pull me out," he begged. I hesitated, but then reached my hand down. He grabbed it. And that's when everything changed. The moment our hands touched, the world around me went silent. The distant sounds of the station vanished. No more wind, no more hum from lights, just a vacuum of sound. And then, I felt something pull me. Not the man, but something else. A force. Cold and electric. My flashlight slipped from my other hand and rolled across the platform, spinning until it pointed back at the crawl space. And in that split second, in that flickering light, I saw something inhuman behind the man. It was tall, its body hunched over to fit into the crawl space. Its skin was black and shiny, like burnt flesh, and its eyes were white holes that oozed smoke. Its hand was on the man's shoulder, holding him there. The man didn't scream, he only mouthed one word. "Run." I didn't need to be told twice. I pulled back, yanked my arm out, and stumbled away from the platform. As I scrambled to get up, I heard a low growl echoing from beneath, the same sound a crocodile might make, but angrier, deeper. I ran back to Platform 1, not daring to look back. For the next few hours, I stayed hidden in the station master's office. I didn't tell him anything. I just told him I felt sick and needed to sit. Morning came. I returned home, swearing never to go near Platform 3 again, but the nightmare started. Every night, I'd wake up sweating, with the sound of that voice in my ears. "Help me! Pull me out!" Over and over. Worse, I started seeing that pale man in reflections, mirrors, puddles, windows. He was always just behind me, staring, mouthing something I couldn't hear. One night, I woke up and found muddy handprints all over my floor, leading from the door to my bed. That was it. I quit my job the next day. I later spoke to a retired railway worker who used to work at that station in the 1980s. When I told him about the voice under Platform 3, his face turned pale. He told me that decades ago, during repairs, a worker fell into a maintenance shaft beneath Platform 3 and got trapped during a cave-in. They couldn't reach him in time. He died down there, buried beneath the platform. Since then, people have heard his voice calling for help, and some say whatever trapped him down there wasn't just debris. I don't know what's under Platform 3, but if you ever hear a voice from below asking for help, don't answer. I'm a train conductor for the National Rail Service in the UK. I've been doing this job for over 12 years now. My route mostly covers small towns in the north, passing through misty countryside, old industrial sites, and lots of forgotten stations. What I'm about to tell you didn't just scare me. It broke my understanding of reality. And it all happened at a station I thought I knew inside out. Let me take you back to the night of October 18th, 2019. We were running the last route of the day, the 11:40 p.m. train from Middlesbrough to York. It was a quiet, cold night, foggy enough that even our headlamps barely lit up the tracks. I was working with my usual engineer, Mark. That night, we had only 6 passengers on board, a few regulars, some university kids. The trip was supposed to be routine, nothing unusual. But just past midnight, something strange happened. We had a scheduled stop at a small station called Stockforth Halt. It was one of those forgotten stations, barely maintained, only used by locals. A concrete shelter, one light on the platform and a bench. That's all. We pulled in, slowed to a stop, and opened the doors. But no one was waiting. That's not unusual. Sometimes nobody boards or exits, especially this late. But as we waited, I saw something odd. From the conductor's window, I could clearly see someone sitting in the waiting room. I swear it was a woman. Long brown hair, black coat, face turned away. She was still. Too still. Like a mannequin. I picked up the mic and asked Mark, "Did you see anyone on the platform?" He said no, but I could see her, sitting perfectly still, facing the wall. The strangest thing? There was no waiting room on that platform. That jolted me. I'd been to Stockforth Hall dozens of times. I knew that platform had no waiting room, just a concrete shelter open on all sides. But tonight, there was a room, made of old, dark bricks with a frosted glass door and a rusty waiting room sign above it. Thinking maybe the council had installed something new, I grabbed my coat and stepped off the train. The moment I set foot on the platform, I felt wrong, like the air had thickened. There was no sound, no wind, no insects. Even the train behind me felt distant. I walked toward the waiting room. The closer I got, the colder it became. The woman inside hadn't moved. I reached for the door handle. My fingers trembled as I touched the icy metal. And just before I opened it, the woman turned her head. Her face was wrong. It wasn't deformed, but it looked painted on, like someone had drawn human features with chalk. Faint eyes, a crooked smile, no depth. She stood up, and then the walls of the room began to breathe. They pulsed, in and out, like lungs. The bricks shifted. The sign above the door twisted and changed. It no longer said, "Waiting room." It now said, "She's waiting." I stepped back, but the door creaked open on its own. Inside was dark, not black, but hollow, like looking into a pit that had no end. The woman was now at the door, her face emotionless, her arms hanging at her sides, and in the shadows behind her, I saw others, figures, dozens of them, silent, unmoving, staring. They filled the room, some sitting, some standing, some crouched, all facing me, all waiting. I ran. I turned and sprinted back toward the train, yelling at Mark to shut the doors and go. He didn't even question it. Something in my voice must have told him enough. The doors slammed shut behind me, and we pulled away fast. When we reached the next station, I told Mark everything. He looked at me, pale as snow, and said, "There's never been a waiting room at Stockforth Halt. Never." I checked the records later. He was right, but I needed to be sure. A week later, I returned on my day off. I drove there during the day, brought a flashlight, a camera, everything. Stockforth Halt was empty, overgrown, abandoned. The platform was cracked. No lights, no shelter, not even a bench, and definitely no waiting room. But when I walked the length of the platform, I found something that froze my blood. At the far end, half covered in weeds and vines, was a door frame, standing on its own, No building, no walls, just a rusted frame with a shattered glass pane, and above it, a corroded sign, faded but still readable. She's still waiting. I left that day and never went back. But some nights, when I'm driving alone through quiet towns, I swear I see that woman, just standing beside the road, unmoving, watching. And once, just once, when I passed through a tunnel late at night, the train lights flickered, and I saw her sitting in the last carriage, alone, waiting.